Hello everyone, welcome back to this session of PW Umeed NEET English 2025. As you all are familiar by my name, that is Dr. Simi Siddiqui, and today we are going to start with a very special topic, that is haloalkanes and haloarenes. Now, why this particular topic is so special? Because there are so many compounds which are belonging to this particular category, that is haloalkanes and haloarenes, and they are useful for our day-to-day life. Like if I talk about few drugs, like if I talk about the quinine drug is used in malaria. Your chloramphenicol, that we used in the dengue. Thyroxine, thyroxine is what? That in that we have a halogen iodide, your thyroid gland which secrete the hormone. Besides this, we have the chloroform. Now chloroform is what? CHCl3. Then we have the freons, that is your CCl2F2. So there are a lot of compounds which are being used in our drug industry and they belong to this category, that is haloalkanes and haloarenes. Now what exactly is haloalkanes and haloarenes, that we are going to see over here. Besides this, we are going to look their various method of preparation, properties and so on. So let's see. In this session, we are going to do the classification of halogen derivatives, then method of preparation of alkyl and aryl halides, that we are going to do in a separate phase, chemical and physical properties of both alkyl and aryl halides, and at last we are going to look the polyhalogen compounds. So the very first thing for us is to need to understand the halogen compounds, that what are exactly the halogen derivatives are. Halogen derivatives are the compounds in which they are formed by the replacement of hydrogen atom of hydrocarbon. Now say suppose you are having CH4, okay, and I make it react with the any halogen. So it is going to give me a CH3 X plus HX. Now basically what happened from here, one hydrogen is being replaced by the halogen atom and I got the over here halide. Now because it is the alkyl group, so what I am going to call it as a alkyl halide. Got it? Similarly, we can have the aryl halides also. So we can have both the components, that is the aromatic or the aliphatic over here. So moving ahead, the very first thing we are required to understand the classification of your halogen derivatives. So the first classification is on the basis of the number of halogen atoms. Now when we are talking about the number of the halogen atoms, in the case of the number of halogen atoms, the first thing comes monohalogen derivative. Monohalogen means only one halogen atom. That is like CH3X. Then dihalogen. In the case of dihalogen, if I talk about, in case of dihalogen means the two halogen atom, means the two hydrogen is being replaced. Now this dihalogen can be of two types further, that is vicinal and gem dihalide. Now, what is this vicinal or the gem dihalide? Basically, when we are talking about the vicinal dihalide means that you are having a two neighboring carbon atoms. On that two neighboring carbon atoms, you are having the halide, means on the separate carbon atoms, but they should be the neighboring carbon atoms, you are going to have the halide. And in the case of a geminal, on the same carbon atom, you are having the halide. Okay, moving ahead, we have trihalogen. Trihalogen means that three hydrogen atoms are being replaced over here. So in the case of trihalogen, you can have the CH, Cl3, and fourth one you are going to have the tetrahalogen. Means 4 carbon atoms are being replaced over here. So these all are the examples of the aliphatic. If I talk about the your aryl group, then in that case also you can have monohalogen, dihalogen. Now this dihalogen can be ortho, meta or the para, or you can have the trihalogen over here. Okay. Now this is the one classification. Next, how I can classify over here. Another thing is what? That is on the basis of type of halogen. Now on the basis of type of halogen means what? On the basis of type of halogen means that if I am having CH3F, now type over here is what? Fluorine. So it is going to be my fluoro. Like over here it is going to be fluoromethane. Chloromethane. Bromomethane. Idomethane. So in this manner we can classify on the basis of the type of halogen. Moving ahead, next we have the on the basis of the nature of the carbon atom. So now we can have the nature of the carbon atom means over here that we are talking about the degree of carbon atom. Now degree of carbon atom means what? Over here if you are going to look, CH3, CH2, Br. Then CH3, CH, CH3, Br, and CH3, C, CH3, CH3, Br. Now you all are very familiar with this. We have already discussed in the nomenclature that this is my 1 degree carbon, this is my 2 degree carbon, and this is my 3 degree carbon. Okay. Moving ahead, next is on the basis of the type of hybridization of the carbon atom to which it is being bonded. Now on the basis of that, the first you can have the sp3 hybridized. Now sp3 hybridized means that they are all the carbon atoms are going to be the single bonded to which the halogen atom is being attached over here. So CH3, CH2, Br. Now the group to which your carbon atom is attached, that is going to be your alpha carbon atom, and the another alpha carbon atom, and the another one is a beta carbon atom. So if you look, this particular carbon atom is having all the single bonded, so it is going to called as a sp3 hybridized. Okay. Next one we have the allyl halide in this. Now allyl halide means you are having a double bond over here. Okay, you are going to have a double bond over here. But what we want? We want a sp3 hybridized. So now look, in this particular case, this carbon atom is sp3, but this carbon atom is sp2. I have to look the carbon atom to which my halogen is bonded, that is that should be sp3. Another one, you can have the benzylic halide. Now, I have already told you that when you are talking about a benzylic halide, it means that your benzene ring is attached to the carbon atom and that is further attached to your halogen. So, over here, if I look, this is alpha and this is what is going to be beta. Okay. The next hybridization is going to be your sp2 hybridized. Now, when you are saying sp2 hybridized, it means that they are going to be what? They are going to be double bonded. So, the first category over here, or the example I going to take vinylic. Okay, vinylic halide. This allylic, vinylic, you should know the difference between two. Now, vinylic halide means CH2, CHBr over here. Now, look, in this particular case, my alpha is what? It is sp2 hybridized and this is beta. Beta over here, it is again a sp2 hybridized. Then, next one, if I look over here, one more example. In the case of a ring, over here the Br. Now, look, this carbon atom again it is sp2 hybridized. So, like this, on the basis of the hybridization, we can classify our halogen atoms. Now, moving ahead, let's talk about the method of preparation of the haloalkanes. Okay, so the very first method of preparation, we are going to look from the alcohols. That with the help of alcohols, how we can prepare the haloalkanes. Each and every point over here is very important. So, kindly note all the points over here. Okay. So, let's take one alcohol over here. Now, look, what type of alcohol I am taking? I am taking the first degree alcohol. Okay, I just put it with the separate color later on. Now, look over here. I have taken first degree alcohol, second degree alcohol and third degree alcohol. All the cases they are providing me the haloalkane over here. Okay, but in the first case, when I made it react with the HCl and I took the ZnCl2 and besides this I provided a heat. At that time I got this alkyl halide. In the next case, I added the HCl and I provided the ZnCl2, but I did not provide the heat. In the next case, I just added the HCl, no ZnCl2. Now remember few points over here. The first degree over here, the first degree requires a reaction with the ZnCl2 and heat, because first degree is going to show a very less, or you can say the rate of reaction is going to be very low. So, in order to initiate the reaction, we require to provide the heat. In the second degree over here, because I am having the more bulkier group over here, so I just require to put a catalyst over here. And in the third case, because I am having the three bulky groups, so I do not require anything, I am just going to add HCl over here, and then it is going to give me my alkyl halide. Now, the few important points of this particular reaction, please make a note of them. First point, any HX assay in presence of ZnCl2 is called Lucas reagent. Second thing, if I talk about the rate of reaction, then it is going to be of the order third degree, second degree, and the first degree. If I talk about the third one, that is to react with the halogen acid, then it is going to be HI, HBr, HCl and HF. Okay. Another point over here, that this particular reaction means HCl in the presence of the ZnCl2 and heat, it is going to called as the Groves process. It is going to called as a Groves process. So, these few points you have to remember in the case that when you are making a haloalkane with the help of your halogen acid. Okay. Another main point, remember one thing, that this fourth point, that is order of reactivity, which we have made over here. Over here it is directly proportional to the stability of carbocation. As you know that third degree carbocation, when it is going to form, it is going to be the most stable, isn't it? So, that's why third degree is going to have the, first of all, the very fast reaction, and then you are going to have the second degree, and then you are going to have the third degree reaction. Okay. Fine. So, moving ahead, after this, besides the case of the alcohol over here, we have the few other reactions also with the alcohol. Like alcohol can react with the PCl5, it can react with PCl3, it can react with SOCl2. Now, when it is going to react with SOCl2, remember one thing, that this particular reaction is considered as the best method. Why? Because when it is going to react with the SOCl2, you are going to have the SO2 and HCl gas. Now, because both of them are going to be gaseous form, therefore, you do not require to apply your another reaction over here, that is means you do not require to provide any other separation technique in this particular case. So, when you do not require any other separation technique over here, so therefore, what is going to happen, that being a gas, they are going to evaporate, and when you are going to evaporate, then you are going to have the pure alkyl halide like this only. So that's why SOCl2 is considered as the best method among the three. If you look, PCl5 if you are going to take, in the case of the PCl5 you are going to get the, of course, the alkyl halide, but besides that alkyl halide you are going to get a PuCl3 and the HCl. Then PCl3, in the case of the PCl3 you are going to get the H3PO3 and the your alkyl halide. So you require to provide a separation techniques in these cases. Okay. So I just make a reaction over here for the 3 CH3 CH2 OH plus SOCl2, that is your thionyl chloride. So it is going to provide a CH3 CH2 Cl plus SO2 plus HCl. So both of them are the gases. Then you are going to have the CH3 CH2 OH PCl5. You are going to get the CH3 CH2 Cl plus POCl3 plus HCl. Then CH3 CH2OH. These three molecules you are going to take. PCl3, 3 molecules of CH3 CH2OH plus H3PO3. These all products you are going to get over here. Got it? Up to here? Is it clear that how these reactions are going to work over here? And remember one thing, that the most important thing is what? That tertiary iodide and bromide are not formed because of 3 bulky groups attached. Got it? So this is about the method of preparation of alloalkanes by the alcohols. So let's move ahead and see the further reaction. Now the first another reaction is from the hydrocarbons. Now when you're talking about the hydrocarbons, in the case of the hydrocarbon, they follow the free radical substitution reaction mechanism. Means you are having a alkane in the presence of the UV rays, you are going to get the haloalkane. Further again it is going to react with the, you are going to have the means it is going to keep on reacting till all the hydrogen is being reacted. Okay. This. So basically what you are getting a mixture of the haloalkanes over here. Okay. The detail of the free radical substitution reaction, or you can say the mechanism part, we have already covered in the reaction mechanism 2 over here. Now remember one thing, that if I talk about the order of reactivity, it is going to be 3rd degree, 2nd degree and 1 degree. If I talk about the key points over here, what are going to be the key points? The first key point is going to be that fluorination is not a preferred choice because it is going to be highly preferred as it is highly hexatonic in nature, and Iodination is also not preferred because it is reversible in nature. So if you want to carry out iodination, so it takes place in presence of oxidizing agent like HiO3, HNO3. Okay. So this is about the when you are preparing a haloalkane with the help of the hydrocarbon. Got it? Moving ahead, next see from preparation from the alkenes. Now when you are going to prepare it from the alkene, the very simple reaction is what? That you have taken the alkene. You have taken the alkene. This alkene you make react with the HX. You are going to get the this. Now it was very simple for me to put the H hydrogen and the X over here. The reason behind is what? Because in alkene if I look, I am having a symmetrical alkene. So when it is a symmetrical alkene, it is one of the same thing for me that whether I am going to put the hydrogen here or the halogen over here. But what in case if you are having a unsymmetrical alkene? Now here comes the main twist. If you are having unsymmetrical alkene, let's say suppose you are having a CH double bond CH2. Okay. Now this is my unsymmetrical alkene. Now in the case of the unsymmetrical alkene, if I want to make its reaction with the HBr, so what is going to be my reaction? I am going to get the CH3, CH2, CH2, Br. Means my particular reaction is going to follow a rule which is named as the Markovnikov rule. Now you will see that what is the Markovnikov rule over here? No, sorry, 1 minute. That is Markovnikov rule. So CH, CH3 and Br. So now you will say that what is the Markovnikov rule? Markovnikov rule says that the negative part, when this particular bond is going to break down over here, let's see that this bond is going to break down over here, this is going to get negative, this is going to positive. So Markovnikov rule says that the negative part of my this hydrogen halide is going to come and attach to the carbon atom which is least substituted, or the less number of the hydrogen it is having, not the least substituted, let's say that it is having the less number of the hydrogen atom. But in case you are having the same molecule I have taken, HBr I have taken, and over here I have taken the benzoyl peroxide. So it is going to follow a rule, that is your anti-Markovnikov rule. Now according to the anti-Markovnikov rule, my product is going to be what? My product is going to be CH3, CH2, CH2, Br. Okay. Now Markovnikov rule, what it is saying, the negative part of my halogen acid is going to go and attach to the carbon atom which is having the lesser number of the hydrogen. So I got the over here in this particular case 2-bromopropane. When you are having the application of the Markovnikov rule, you are applying a Markovnikov rule, it can be taken place with the help of the HBr, HCl, HI, HF if you are going to do. But when you are having a anti-Markovnikov rule, Anti-Markovnikov rule, the very first condition is what? It is going to take place in the presence of the benzoyl peroxide. The second is what? That your negative part of your halogen acid is going to go and attach to the carbon atom, which is having the maximum number of the hydrogen atoms. So, over here I am having the more number of the hydrogen atoms as compared to this. So, I got the 1 bromopropane over here. Now, the special point over here is what? It is always going to take place along the HBr only. HBr only, no HCl, no HF, no HI, nothing is going to be there, only you are going to have the HBr only. Another one more method I am having, that if you are having the alkene, okay, you are having the alkene and you make it react with the bromine, but in the presence of the CCl4, then you get the, vicinal dihalite. Okay, so this is how we can prepare a haloalkenes with the help of the alkenes. Moving ahead, next we have the halogen exchange. Now, when you are talking about the halogen exchange, this halogen exchange is very important for us, because in this halogen exchange we have the two important named reactions. The first named reaction over here is the Finkelstein reaction. So, when we are talking about the Finkelstein reaction, in the case of the Finkelstein reaction, we take over here that in the case of halogen exchange we are taking. So, you can take any alkyl halide, make it react with the sodium iodide. So, you are going to get the formation of the alkyl iodide and you are going to have the your sodium halide. This is your Finkelstein reaction over here, means the exchange is being done with the help of the your iodide. X over here could be your chlorine or the bromine. Okay. Now, the special point over here is what? That if you are going to take the 1 degree alkyl halide, then you are going to have the maximum yield. Okay. The next over here halogen exchange reaction is the Schwarz reaction. In the case of the Schwarz reaction, you are going to take the any alkyl halide and you make it react with the AgF. So, basically what you are doing, you are bringing the fluorine over here. Okay. Now, instead of AgF, you can take any of the over here, like you can take a Hg2F2, you can take a COF2, you can take a SbF3, any you can take in the Schwarz reaction. So, these two reactions are very important for us, that is the Finkelstein reaction. In the case of Finkelstein reaction, you are going to exchange the halide with the iodine, and in the Schwarz reaction, you are going to exchange the halide with the fluorine over here. Okay. So, moving ahead, next we have the physical properties of the haloalkenes. Now, when we are talking about the physical properties of the haloalkenes, the very first physical property is what? It is colorless when pure. Okay. The second physical property over here is the that they are the sweet smelling, they are polar in nature. Fourth, they are sparingly soluble in water. Now, you will say over here that ma'am, when they are polar in nature, then they should be soluble in the water. But why we are writing over here that they are the sparingly soluble in the water? Reason behind is what? Because the energy which is required over here, because the energy required to break the bonds of the haloalkanes and the water molecule cannot be provided. So when you cannot provide the energy over here, so what is going to happen? They are going to have the less tendency to form hydrogen bond with water. Okay, because we cannot provide the lot of energy to break the bond over here of the haloalkane, so that is why they are going to not going to form the bond with the hydrogen bond with the water, so therefore they are going to be less soluble. Okay, fifth point. Fifth point over here is what? That when the number of carbon atoms increases, what is going to happen? Your solubility. If you are increasing the number of the carbon atoms, you can say your molecular weight is going to increase over here. That is, your solubility is going to decrease. If I look the boiling point of haloalkanes. Now, in the case of the boiling point of the haloalkanes, with increase in the number of the carbon atoms of haloalkane increases with increase in number of carbon atom. But remember one thing, when you are going to have the branching, then the boiling point is going to decrease, because we have learned this thing in the case of the alkanes, that the surface area is going to reduce. And next point, it is inflammable. Okay. Moving ahead, we have the chemical properties of haloalkanes. So when we talk about the chemical properties of haloalkanes, the few chemical properties over here is what? The main chemical properties, I should say, nucleophilic substitution reaction, which you called as the NSR reaction, elimination reaction. So this you called as the NSR reactions. Elimination reaction over here, we called it as a beta elimination. Then reaction with metals like you have the magnesium, sodium over here, and then reduction reaction that you are going to use any reducing agent like the nickel, palladium, platinum for the reduction process. Okay. Now, let's understand the nucleophilic substitution reaction, because it is the most important reaction over here. When you are talking about the nucleophilic means nucleophile, which you represent by this particular sign Nu. Okay, over here. Now it can be negatively charged, or it can be neutral with lone pair of electrons. Okay. Now, this particular nucleophile is what? It is having a negative charge. So, basically what is going to happen? This nucleophile is going to show me a substitution reactions. It is going to show me the substitution reactions. And say suppose this alkyl halide I have taken, in this particular alkyl halide, this X is going to be my leaving group. And remember one thing, that iodine is my best leaving group. Why the best leaving group? Because you know, top to bottom atomic radii increases. So over here it is going to have the maximum bond length. So there will be the least attraction. So basically what happens, let's say suppose you are having this as the alkyl halide. Okay, you make it react with the nucleophile. So when this particular bond is going to break down over here, this is going to carry a negative charge, this is going to carry a positive charge. So this nucleophile is going to attack over here, and you are going to have the nucleophile attach over here, and your halide ion is going to move out. So basically what is happening, that there is the formation of the carbocation. So now, in the nucleophilic substitution reaction, we can have the different reactions, that is the substitution by the hydroxyl group, the substitution by the cyano group, substitution by the with the reaction with the ammonia, and substitution with the nitro group. Let's see one by one all of them over here. So the first one is over here, substitution by hydroxyl group. So Rx plus KOH I have taken. Now this Rx plus KOH when I am taken over here, it is very essential for me to write down the aqueous. Why? Because when I am writing the aqueous over here, it means that there is the presence of the water molecule. Now when there is the water molecule presence, you know that potassium hydroxide belongs to the hydroxide of the group 1. That is your S block element. So it is having a strong basic nature. But over here I do not want the basic nature of, utilize the basic nature of the KOH. Reason being, I do not want the elimination reaction, but I want the substitution reaction. So that's why we are going to take the aqueous KOH. So when you are going to take aqueous KOH, over here your KOH is going to act as only the strong nucleophile. So you are going to have the alcohol over here, okay, in the, over here in this particular case, and halite. Say suppose you take the okay, this is how you are going to have the substitution reaction. Now the next reaction is substitution by cyano group. Now this substitution by cyano group is bit important for us. The reason behind that, you are having the Rx, you have taken the KCN, so you are going to get the RCN plus Kx. But at the same time, if you are going to take the Rx plus AgCN, then you are going to have the R Now, in one case, I am getting the cyanide, in another case, I am getting a isocyanate. Reason behind over here is what? That my KCN is a ionic compound. But when I am talking about the AgCN, it is a covalent in the nature. Therefore, I am going to have the isocyanide formation in this particular case. Next is reaction with the ammonia. So, when I am going to have the reaction with the ammonia over here, NH3. So in this particular case, what is going to happen? You are going to have the RNH2. Now look, this particular reaction we do not, we get a mixture of the amines over here. The reason behind is what? That this particular reaction is going to keep on taking place. Over here, again it is going to react with the Rx and this. So basically what you got the second degree, you got the 3rd degree, and you got the 1st degree amine over here. So in this reaction you get a mixture. Next reaction is your reaction with the nitro group. Now when you are going to have a reaction with the nitro group, it is somewhat similar to the reaction with the cyano group. Reaction is also very important for us. Look how. You take any alkyl halide, make it react with KNO2. So you are going to get over here and in another case, take any alkyl halide and AgNO2, you are going to get a nitro group over here. So basically KX and AgX. Okay, so this reaction and cyano group reaction, just remember over here, and these changes we are able to look because of the nature of our reactants, that is the ionic bonding and the covalent bonding. Let's move ahead over here and see that how this nucleophilic substitution reactions takes place basically. So when we are talking about the nucleophilic substitution reaction, as the name is saying that there will be the attack of the nucleophile. Like I am having the alkyl halide, as I am doing a haloalkanes, haloarenes, nucleophile. So when this bond is going to break, the nucleophile is going to come and attack over here and my halide is going to move out. Now by looking this reaction, it's looking so simple, isn't it? But this particular reaction takes place by two mechanisms. Now let's see that what are these two mechanisms. The one mechanism over here is what? It is the SN1 mechanism and another is SN2 mechanism. If I talk about the importance, just note it down that both the mechanisms are very important according to the examination point of view, because in each and every exam you are going to get a question from either the SN1 or SN2, even you can get a question for both of them. So let's see them in detail. So let's talk about first of all SN1 mechanism. So when you are going to talk about the SN1 mechanism, this particular mechanism is also called as the substitution nucleophilic unimolecular. Okay. Now over here a basic simple thing that you are going to get nucleophile attack over here and halide is going to come out. Now what basically happens? This particular reaction or mechanism takes place in two steps. So the first step is a rate determining step and that particular step is what? It is a slow step. Okay. So in first case what happens? You are having your alkyl halide. Now alkyl halide is going to what happen? Having the electrons shared. So this particular step is going to be slow and rate determining step. Basically here will be the formation of your carbocation. In this step 2, this particular step is going to be a fast step and your nucleophile is going to come and attach over here. Fine. So in this manner this particular reaction takes place. Now again I am repeating, SN1 mechanism is also called as a substitution unimolecular nucleophilic reaction. It takes place in two steps. In first step, which is our slow step or a rate determining step, in that the formation of the carbocation is going to take place. In step 2, the carbocation is being attacked by the nucleophile. Now moving ahead, as I told you that this reaction takes place in two steps over here. Now in the starting, as we was having only the alkyl halide, there was no involvement of nucleophile. Therefore, the rate of this reaction is going to be directly proportional to the concentration of alkyl halide, because the rate of reaction is depending on the concentration of one constituent, that is your alkyl halide. Therefore, the order is going to be 1 as well as the molecularity is going to be 1. Rate of reaction in this reaction is not going to depend on the concentration of nucleophile. Why it is not going to depend on the concentration of the nucleophile? Because in starting we was not having any nucleophile. Intermediate which formed, like in the step 1, if you remember, we got the carbocation. So we got the carbocation, therefore the rearrangement is possible. Why? Because we have already studied that when you are having a carbocation formation, you can have the shifting of the your hydride, the phenyl shift or the methyl shift in order to obtain a stable structure, stable carbocation. SN1 reaction takes place in presence of PPS. Now what is the full form of PPS? PPS is polar protic solvent. Now basically we all know that we have two types of the solvent. One is polar and another one is non-polar. Now this polar solvent is divided into again the two categories, that is your polar protic solvent and polar aprotic solvent. Now these solvents play a role in our mechanisms. SN1 polar protic solvent. These are the solvents in which oxygen is directly attached over here to your hydrogen atoms. You can say that they are directly attached over here, like in the case of H2O, ROH. Basically, there is a directly attachment of the oxygen and the hydrogen. Okay, and reactivity over here, there is typo error. Reactivity towards SN1 is directly proportional to stability of carbocation. Means more stable the carbocation, more there will be the reaction or ease of the reaction towards the SN1. So moving ahead, let's talk about the stereochemistry of SN1. So let's see over here. Let's first of all make your over here whatever the alkyl halide you are going to take. Okay. Okay. Over here, halide is going to come. Fine. Now the very first step was what? The formation of the carbocation. So this particular step over here, now here is the formation of carbocation. Now further moving ahead, well, now look over here at this condition when we got a carbocation over here. So if I talk about the hybridization of this carbocation, it is sp2 hybridization. If you are going to talk about its geometry, it is going to be trigonal planar. Okay. Now basically what happens that when you are going to have the nucleophile and this nucleophile is going to attack to this carbocation, it can attack in two ways. The one way is what? That it can attack to the direct to the position where our halide was being attached. Another condition that it can attack to your carbocation from the opposite direction. So I can have the two types of the products, like over here. This. Now the point to be noted, or you can say the important point, is what? When it is going to attack, the halide is going to attack to the carbocation at the same place. So sorry, I just kept the halides only, as I was saying the halide over here. It is the nucleophile. Okay. Now, your nucleophile, when it is going to attack to the position where halide was attached, remember one thing, then particular product is going to called as a retention product. And when it is going to attack at the opposite side of the halide where it was attached, it is going to called as the inversion product. Basically, these two products, if you are going to have their mirror images, they are going to be what? You can call them as the enantiomers. So basically, by looking this particular reaction, what we can say that we are having the two types of the products. So we are getting a mixture of the retention product and the inversion product. Now theoretically, 100% racemization will occur. If you are going to look theoretically, what we can see that I have got the mixture of the two. But practically, your inversion product is slightly more than retention product. So we are going to say that partial racemization will occur. Got it? So this is about the SN1 mechanism. Now, let's talk about next, that is your SN2 mechanism. Now, what is SN2 mechanism? Let's see. You are having a nucleophile, alkyl halide, and this. Okay. Now, this particular reaction takes place in a one single step, because from the starting I was having the nucleophile as well as the alkyl halide. Therefore, rate is going to depend on both of them. That is your concentration of alkyl halide and the nucleophile. Order is going to be 2 and molecularity is going to be 2. Rate of reaction depends on the concentration of nucleophile. Now, why it is depending on the concentration of nucleophile? Because from the starting we are having the nucleophile. Intermediate is not being formed. Therefore, no rearrangement is possible as we did not got any kind of the carbocation. It is going to take place in the presence of a polar aprotic solvent. For example, DMF, dimethyl formamide, DMSO, and so on. So moving ahead, if I look the stereochemistry of SN2 reaction, how it is going to be? RCl. I am having the OH negative as a nucleophile. It is going to attack over here. So you are going to get a transition state. Now, how your transition state is going to be? 2 positive. Why the 2 positive? Because over here the chlorine is also negative and OH is also negative. This is your transition state. And if I just join over here somewhat like this, means what I can say that its geometry is going to be trigonal by pyramidal. If I talk about the product, I'm going to get now look over here. My nucleophile got attached over here, the position which is opposite to the Cl. Means what I can say that the product which I formed over here is what the product which is formed over here. Is the Walden inversion has taken place. Okay, completely opposite direction. In the opposite direction, I got the formation of my product over here, which is called as the Walden inversion. So, in SN2, 100% inversion will take place and you are getting only one product. Rate of SN2 reaction is going to be inversely proportional to steric hindrance. Okay, means more the steric hindrance, the lesser will be the rate of reaction for the SN2 over here. Got it? So moving ahead, next we have the elimination reactions. Now when we are talking about the elimination reaction, as the word is only itself saying that you are going to eliminate something. So basically over here we have the elimination of the hydrogen atom from beta carbon and halogen atom from alpha carbon. So let's see over here. Say suppose I am having let's take Br over here. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Now you all are familiar with the fact that the carbon atom to which the functional group is attached, it is called as alpha, and the functional group which is adjacent to it is called as beta. Now for me over here it is very easy to remove the hydrogen atom. Why? Because I am having the one beta. Now when this particular reaction is going to take place, it is going to take place in the presence of a alcoholic QH. If you remember, in this lecture only, I have told you the role of the aqueous QH, that it is going to act as a nucleophile. Now over here we are having what? We are having the alcoholic QH. So when you are taking a alcoholic QH, means it is going to act as a strong base also as well as the strong nucleophile also. So straight away elimination reaction is going to take place. So what is going to happen? As a product you are going to get the CH2 double bond CH2. So it was bit easy for us to remove an hydrogen atom from here and the halogen from here. But what in case if you are having the two betas, like Okay. Now over here, if you look, I'm having alpha as this. This I name it as beta 1. This I name it as beta 2. So when I'm going to have a reaction in the presence of the alcoholic KOH, I'm going to have the two types of the product. Alcoholic KOH, over here I'm going to do the beta 1 eliminate, and over here beta 2 eliminate. So when the beta 1 CH3 CH2 this is beta 1 and this is beta 2. Now just compare the two products. When you are going to compare the two products over here, how you are getting? This is a unsymmetrical and this one is a symmetrical. Why unsymmetrical? Because to the double bond, one side I am having the 1 carbon atom and the other side I am having the 3 carbon atoms. Over here to the double bonds, both the side I am having the equal number of the carbon atoms. So therefore it is symmetrical. Being symmetrical, it is going to be more stable as compared to my unsymmetrical. Okay. So now the product which is more stable over here, the concept comes over here. The product which is more stable over here, it is going to called as a Sedzev product. And being more stable, it is going to be my major product. In our NCRT, it is written as Zaitsev. Okay. And the product which is unsymmetrical, or you can say which is going to be present in a minor range, that is called as a Hoffman product. Got this particular point? Now over here one more concept lies, that is that if you look this particular product, that is a major product, sometimes a question can be put over here that total how many products you are going to get. So what you will say, ma'am, 2 products we are going to get? No. This is alkene, means it is having a restricted rotation. It means it is going to show the GI. So further it is going to show me a 2. That is your cis and trans. Now among the cis and trans, if you look, this form is going to be our major product. Got it? So this is how the elimination reaction is going to take place. Dehydrohalogenation. D means in chemistry, I have told you to remove or to make it out. Hydro means hydrogen atom. Halogenation. Halogen means your halogen that we have to remove. Next is reaction with magnesium. So Rx plus Mg, you are going to get the RMgX. Now what is RMgX? RMgX is your Grignard reagent. Now one of the most important thing over here is what? That this particular reaction takes place in the presence of the dry ether. Now why we require a dry ether? We require a dry ether because you know that magnesium belongs to the S block, that is your group 2, and they are very reactive in the nature. So in order to absorb the moisture, we put the dry ether over here. Next over here we have the Woods reaction. Alkyl halide you are going to take. Now 2 alkyl halides we require. So you are going to get the alkane over here. Now, this particular reaction is also going to take place in the presence of a dry ether, because again the sodium is very reactive in the nature. So, we require the dry ether in order to absorb the moisture. The most simple reaction which we get over here, and this is the formation of the alkenes also. If you remember, in alkenes I have told you already that in place, if you are not going to use a dry ether, there will be the presence of the moisture. You are going to use a wet ether, if say suppose, then you are not going to get the alkane, but you are going to get the alcohol over here. Moving ahead, next is your reduction reactions. Now, when you are talking about the reduction reactions, then let's say suppose over here you have to do the reduction. Okay, now if you have to do the reduction over here, you can take any over here, that is your nickel, platinum or palladium, any you can take over here. So simply what you are going to get, you are going to get the plus HBr, that is your alkane. Zinc copper couple, in the case of the zinc copper couple, again it is a reducing agent. So over here, when you are going to take any alkyl halide, okay. Next, Hi in presence of red phosphorus. Now over here, what you are going to get, just look. CH3 CH3 plus HBr plus I2. Balance the equation. Okay. So this is the reduction reaction. With this, we end our haloalkenes. Not the haloalkenes and haloarenes, but the haloalkenes. So far what we have learned, we have done the method of preparation for the haloalkenes and the chemical properties of your haloalkenes, in which the most important reaction is the nucleophilic substitution reaction. In that also the SN1 and SN2 mechanism. Then we did the elimination reaction, then the reaction with the metals and the reduction. Now let's talk about the haloarenes. So the very first haloarenes, when we are talking about, the very first reaction is the electrophilic substitution reaction. The important key point over here for the electrophilic substitution reaction is what? That it takes place in presence of Lewis acid. Okay. Now basically what happens that in this, when you are taking a Lewis acid over here, this Lewis acid work as catalyst. Fine. Now this Lewis acid, when working as a catalyst, basically what it do? Over here, that it is going to act as an catalyst and it provides the electron pair over here. It provides the, it acts as the catalyst and act as electron pair acceptor. Okay, it acts as a electron pair acceptor over here. Another thing, that if I just compare the haloarenes and haloalkenes, in that particular case, remember one thing, that haloalkenes are more prone towards the reaction as compared to the haloarenes. But to increase the reactivity of the substrate, resin, what happens that when you are going to use a Lewis acid, what it do? It act as a catalyst. So it act as an electron pair acceptor. So when it is going to act as an electron pair acceptor, it is going to increase the reaction rate of the electrophilic substitution. And because of the resonating structures of the electron at the ortho and para position, we can have electrophilic substitution over here. Okay. So let's see over here its example of this type of the reaction. Basically, over here, you are having a toluene. Toluene, you know that it over here, this group, CH3 group, is what? It is electron donating group. So it is going to donate the electrons over here. Now, when it is going to donate the electrons over here, so what is going to happen? The electron density is going to increase at the ortho and para position. Another point is what? That this particular carbon atom over here is what? It is sp3 hybridized. And sp3 hybridized is less electronegative than sp2 hybridized. So when this particular reaction is going to take place in the presence of the iron, and you are going to have the dark condition, you are going to have the addition of halide. So you are going to have at the ortho position and the para position. Now para position is going to be a major product because of the symmetry, and ortho position is going to be a minor product. So this is how our reaction is going to take place. Fine. Now say suppose over here, if you want to have the fluorination, the noting points of this particular, that if you want to do a fluorination, so fluorination is not possible because it is going to be very explosive in the nature. If you want to have the iodination over here, then it takes place in presence of oxidizing agent like HNO3 or HiO3, because what they do, they oxidize the HI which is being produced over here. Okay, so you cannot have the direct fluorination over here because it is going to be highly exothermic in the nature, and if you want to have the iodination, then you have to do it in the presence of the HNO3 or HiO3. In this particular case, you can have the direct halogenation over here. Okay, you can have the direct halogenation. So direct halogenation over here, when you are going to have, in that particular case, you are going to have, say suppose you have taken the iodine. Let me take the iodine. So iodine plus Hi. Fine. So this is how the electrophilic substitution is going to take place in this particular reaction. Next is Sandmeyer's reaction. It is very important named reaction. This reaction takes place with the help of a diazonium salt. Okay. So this particular reaction takes place in the presence of the different reagents. Cu2, Cl2 in the presence of the HCl, Cu2, Br2 in the presence of the HCl. Then you can have the Ki, NaBF4 over here. Now, if you are having a Cl over here, what product you are going to get? You are going to get the chlorobenzene. When you are going to have the over here, HBr will come. When you are going to have the Br over here, you are going to get the bromobenzene, iodobenzene, and over here the fluorobenzene. Okay. Besides this, if you look, what you are going to get? N2, N2 over here, KCl plus N2, over here, NaCl plus N2, and besides that you are going to have the other products also like the BF3 and so on. Okay. Plus BF3 over here. Okay, so this is the Sandmeier's reaction, which is very important, especially that these two comes very frequently. Next is a Gattermann-Koch reaction. It is only the same as like your Sandmeier's reaction only. The difference is what? That the benzene diazonium salt which you are going to take over here, it is made to react with the copper powder over here, not with the salts. So, if you are going to take Cu in the presence of HCl, you are going to have the chlorobenzene, and over here bromobenzene. Fine. Moving ahead, talking about the physical properties. Now look, when you look the physical properties over here, it is colorless, crystalline solid, heavier than water. The most important physical property over here from which we get the question is your about the melting point and boiling point. Okay. So, boiling point and melting point. You know it is ortho, meta and para. Fine. Now, first of all, let's talk about the boiling point. So, it is going to be your 453, 446 and 448. This is in Kelvin. And in the case of the melting point, if you are going to look, it is 256, 249 and 323. So, from here, remember one thing, that when the question is coming from the boiling point, so boiling point is going to be what? The boiling point is going to be ortho, para and meta. But when the question is coming from the your melting point, in the case of the melting point, what you are going to have? You are going to have the para. After para, you are going to have ortho and then meta. Okay, so this trend you have to remember over here, and this is because of the interactions and the close packed structures. Now, let's talk about the chemical properties. When we are talking about the chemical property over here, it occurs, nucleophilic substitution takes place. Aryl halides are extremely less reactive towards nucleophilic substitution reactions due to the facts resonance effect, difference in hybridization, instability of phenylketone. Like over here, if I talk about my haloarenes, okay, if I talk about my haloarenes, and at the same time if I talk about my alkyl halide, that is this. Now look, this is joined at this particular carbon atom, so it is what sp2 hybridized having the double bond, and over here it is a single bond, so it is sp3 hybridized. Now if I look the hybridization, you know that sp2 hybridized is more electronegative as compared to the sp3 hybridized, because it is more electronegative in the nature. So what is going to happen, it is going to hold more tightly the CX bond. Where it is going to hold more tightly, what is going to happen, it is not going to be available for the further nucleophilic reaction. Then if I talk about the instability of phenylketone, it undergoes a self-ionization. When it undergoes a self-ionization, it is not going to be stable in the nature. When you talk about the resonance effect, you know that it is going to show the partial double bond character, okay, because of the resonance. So moving ahead, the very first reaction is your replacement by the hydroxyl group. So let's see the first reaction. First reaction, I have taken the chlorobenzene. Now chlorobenzene, I make it react with the, in the first step, I make it react with the NaOH. At this particular moment, we keep the pressure of the 623 atm and 300 atm and 623 Kelvin. So what is going to happen at first? You are going to have the sodium phenoxide. Now further, this sodium phenoxide is going to undergo a acidic hydrolysis. Okay, it is undergoing a acidic hydrolysis. So in the second step, you are going to have the acid. From here you are going to get the H plus ion. So your product is going to be OH over here and NaCl is going to come out. So this is the replacement of the hydroxyl group. Now look, presence of over here the electro withdrawing group. Because of the presence of the electron withdrawing group, you are going to have the ortho and the para positions. The very first thing, like over here, say suppose I am having a chlorobenzene and over here I keep a NO2 group. Okay, now you know that NO2 group is what? It is the electron withdrawing group. So when you are going to heat it at a temperature of 443 Kelvin, at that time you are going to have the reaction. Why? Because when you are going to have the presence of the electron withdrawing group at the ortho or the para position, it is going to increase the reactivity of haloarenes. Say suppose I am having the NO2 over here as well as at the ortho position. So it is increasing the reactivity. When it is increasing the reactivity, I do not require to give the much more temperature, because my reaction is going to take place at a faster rate. Fine. Moving ahead, the next reaction is by the amino group. So if you are going to have the any haloalkane, you make it react with the ammonia, and when you do this particular reaction, you take a copper oxide around a temperature of a 475 Kelvin, 475 or the 473 Kelvin, and the pressure is going to be around 60 atmosphere. So you are going to have the formation of the aniline. Okay, besides aniline, you are going to have the Cu2, Cl2, two molecules actually you are going to get, and you are going to get the H2O. Okay, now if you are going to have the reaction with the cyano group. Now this is very interesting reaction, that this particular reaction when it is going to take place, so if it is going to take place, it is going to take place in the presence of a pyridine. Okay, so you are going to have a benzonitrile. Now this benzonitrile can further show the three types of the reaction. Now what are going to be the three types of a reaction? The one is going to be a reduction, one is going to be a partial hydrolysis over here, and the next one is going to be a complete hydrolysis. So when you are going to have a reduction, in the case of the reduction means what? That you are going to introduce a H over here. So you are going to have the CH2 NH2. Okay, when you are going to have the partial hydrolysis, you are going to have the CO NH2, and when you are going to have the complete hydrolysis, you are going to have the formation of the acid. So this is your reaction with the CuCN over here, or you can say the cyano group basically. Okay, moving ahead. Next is a halogenation. Now remember one thing, that whenever the halogenation is going to take place, it is going to take place in the presence of the anhydrous aluminum chloride. And you know, in the case of the halogens, we put a I effect over here, inductive effect over here in this particular case. Okay, so basically what is going to happen, there will be a deactivating nature. So you are going to have the ortho and para product. Next is a nitration. So you are going to take the nitrating mixture. Now what is the nitrating mixture? Concentrated HNO3 in the presence of a concentrated H2SO4 is called as a nitrating mixture. So you are going to get the nitrobenzene over here. Okay, then next you are going to have the wait a minute, what I did, ortho and para. Next you are going to have the sulfonation. So you are going to have the chlorobenzene, concentrated H2SO4. So you are going to have again the ortho at para. Friedel-Crafts reaction. Now when we talk about the Friedel-Crafts reaction, basically it takes place in the as the alkylation and the acylation. So I have taken a chlorobenzene. So alkylation and acylation. So when it is undergoing a alkylation, any alkyl group you are going to take, say suppose CH3Cl I have taken, and acylation, any acyl group you are going to take over here. So what is going to be my products then? So if it is going to be alkylation, alkylation means what? That your alkyl group is going to come and connect. So again the ortho and the para position. And if I talk about the acylation, so acetyl group is going to come and connect. Okay, in this manner. Moving ahead, we have the Wurtz-Fittig reaction. Now, Wurtz-Fittig reaction is what? That you are going to have aryl halide and alkyl halide. In the presence of a dry ether, toluene is going to make and NaCl. If I talk about Fittig reaction, then both aryl halides you are going to take. A very simple chapter basically it is. And the most important thing in this whole chapter is the SN1 and SN2 mechanism, from where for sure question comes. And the concepts like the Markovnikov, anti-Markovnikov and Sedzev rule. Okay. So this is the Fittig reaction. Now let's have the reaction with the metals. So in the reaction with the metals, you have the, say suppose, bromobenzene with magnesium we do, and again it is going to take place in the presence of a dry ether. So MgBr. Reaction with copper. Now this reaction with copper is named as the Ullmann reaction, although it is not mentioned in our NCERT, but sometimes the question is being asked from here. So it is what? Iodobenzene you are going to have, and besides the iodobenzene you are going to take the two molecules of the iodobenzene. Simply you are going to heat CuI2 so this reaction. Okay. Now the last part of this chapter comes, that is your about the polyhalogen compounds. We have the different polyhalogen compounds, but the most important from where we expect a question is from the chloroform and the DDT. So first one is dichloromethane, that is methylene chloride. It is also called as 1,1-dichloromethane, and it is colorless, sweet smelling, used as solvent, paint remover, metal cleaning, propellant for aerosols, refrigerant and dewaxing. Now basically it harms our CNS, and if anyone is going to come in its direct contact, then there will be what? There will be the complete blindness also. The vision is going to be completely, you can say that it is going to be blindness, and it gives a dizziness, then nausea. Okay. Next one is the trichloromethane. That is your chloroform, which is important for us, and from here only we get a question. Now basically chloroform is called as a 1,1-dichloromethane. So this chloroform, what is there, that if you are going to make it react with the HNO3, you get the compound over here, that is chloropicrine. Okay, you get a compound over here which is named as a chloropicrine, and this chloropicrine is what? It is nothing but it is a tear gas. Now remember one thing, the most important thing is what? That this chloroform undergoes a oxidation. It undergoes a oxidation, means if you are having a chloroform stored in a bottle and that particular bottle is not being stored up to the mouth, like over here, say suppose I am having this particular bottle and just imagine it is a chloroform bottle. Now over here if you look, I am having a gap over here, means the water is not completely over here, but over here it is empty. So in that empty space, it means there is the air. So when there is the air, it means the oxidation is going to take place. So when the oxidation is going to take place, in the presence of the sunlight, it undergoes a oxidation and it converts into a poisonous gas. Now that poisonous gas is what? It is a phosgene gas, and phosgene gas is what? Poisonous in the nature. Okay, that is poisonous in the nature, and besides this you are going to have the acid formation. Now the first method to store it is what? That you store up to the mouth, and the second method is what? That you put alcohol in that. Now when you are going to put the alcohol in that, what is going to happen? C2H5OH. Now when you are going to put the alcohol in this case particularly, what is going to happen? You are going to have the C2H5O, C2H5O, and two molecules you are going to take over here. Okay, so basically what is going to happen? You are going to get the diethyl carbonate over here, which is what? Which is non-poisonous in the nature. So because of this formation of the phosgene, it is the important for us. Moving ahead, next we have the triiodomethane. Triiodomethane, it works as the antiseptic. Okay, and how you can check its purity, that whether it is pure or not? If you are going to make it react with the AgNO3, then it is going to give you a yellow color precipitate of the AgI. Yellow precipitate of silver iodide. If you get a silver iodide precipitate, it means that it is the pure in the nature. Next you are having tetrachloromethane, means it is your CCl4, which you called as a carbon tetrachloride, and this is used for the manufacturing of the refrigerants, propellants, for aerosols, and it causes a liver cancer. Next, which I was talking about, that is your DDT. Now basically DDT is what? If you look, previously we used to get the structure based question from here, from the DDT. Okay, this is the structure of the DDT. If you do the nomenclature, it is going to be PP dichloro PP, I am putting a dash because I am having the two para positions. So PP, dichloro, diphenyl, tetra, because you are going to have the tetrachloro, ethane. Sorry, not tetra, trichloroethane. And this DDT is used as the insecticide. Fine. So this was all about the haloalkenes and haloarenes. Let's see the few questions from the previous year papers, that what type of the question you are going to get over here. So the first question over here is the correct sequence of the bond enthalpy of CX bond. Okay, so we have done over here the correct sequence of the bond enthalpy is going to be for what? The CH3F is going to be the highest and CH3I is going to be the lowest. So option A is going to be our correct answer. Next is consider the following reaction and identify the product. Now look over here, I am making it reaction with the HBr and over here I am having the OH, means that in this particular reaction I am going to have a reaction as per my Markovnikov rule. Now what the Markovnikov rule says, that the negative part is going to go and to attach to the carbon atom which is having over here which is going to the carbon atom, sorry, HBr. Yes, over here what you are having the OH group over here and it is made react with the HBr. So basically what is going to happen, you are going to have the removal of the water molecule and hydrogen. Yes, the Markovnikov is only going to take place. So the Br is going to go and attach to the carbon atom which is the most substituted. So therefore option B is going to be my correct answer. Moving ahead, the major product formed in dehydrohalogenation reaction of 2-bromopentane is pentoene. This product formation is based on the Sidzeff rule. Next, the compound that will undergo reaction with the fastest rate is, now look, SN1 reaction was the reaction in which it was directly proportional to the stability of a carbocation. Okay, so when I am going to break the bond over here, my carbocation is going to be this. When I am going to break the bond over here, the carbocation is going to be this. When I am going to break the bond over here, the carbocation over here this. When I am going to break the bond, the carbocation is going to be this carbon. Now, if you look what is happening over here, this is going to show the resonance over here and this is going to show the resonance over here. Isn't it? Yes. So, if you look, then option A is going to be my correct answer. Moving ahead, elimination reaction of 2-bromopentane to form pent-2-ene is beta elimination reaction, follows Zedzeff rule, that is your Zedzeff rule, then dehydrohalogenation reaction and dehydration reaction. Now 2-bromopentane means what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and second position I am having the bromo. It is saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2-bromo. So 1, 2, 2 is going to come over here. So basically over here I am having the beta elimination reaction, I am having the follow up of the Zedzeff rule and the dehydrohalogenation. So option D is going to be my correct answer. So as your homework, practice PYQs and solve DPP which you are going to get along this, and for haloalkenes and haloarenes this much only. I hope you enjoyed the lecture, and in case if you are having still any query, any question which you are not able to solve, you can just text me in the chat box option. I will be replying it soon. So till the next lecture, stay connected, stay healthy, goodbye, take care.